the Cleveland Browns had a good draft. I don't think anybody's going to seriously argue that. But sometimes when you spend 6 months analyzing players and hoping the Browns might get a chance to take them, you can't let go. Here's the OBR's Johnny Kinsley with 10 players he wishes the Browns could have somehow got their hands on.
First up, let's take a look at Ole Miss wide receiver Elijah Moore, who just turned 21 in the month of March. And in 24 out of 32 career starts at Ole Miss, he had 189 receptions for 2,441 yards, 12.9 yards per reception, and 16 touchdowns. He was also a member of the first team All-SEC in the year of 2020. What I love about Elijah Moore is that he has great elusiveness after the catch, he has consistent hands, good contested catch ability, and tight ball security. He also runs some very nifty routes on the break, so I think he can be a stud slot guy. There might be issues that come from a alleged lack of experience with press and getting jammed by press, but nevertheless, I think he's an enticing, speedy guy who could present a quality wide receiver 2/3 option in his rookie season and perhaps beyond if he ever develops.
Keeping it a wide receiver, let's take a look at North Carolina's Dami Brown, who went to the Washington football team to ball it up with Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel for an absolutely enticing receiving trio. Turning 22 in November, Brown tied North Carolina's single-season school record for receiving touchdowns in 2019, with 12 of them to be exact. In 2020, he pushed his accolades even further and made it as a member of the first-team All-ACC. In total, Brown had 123 catches, 2,306 yards, and 21 touchdowns at North Carolina. Outside of the conscientious Big Three receiving group of Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Waddle, he was perhaps my favorite receiving prospect in this entire class. I just couldn't get enough of his big play vertical ability, which is something the Browns could always use a bit more of. Brown can also separate from press coverage thanks to a superb stop-and-go twitch release and an insanely quick hip turn. Plus, he can also block, and his last name is Brown. Why is he not a member of the Browns? His drops are the primary concern, but I am of the opinion that drops can be fixed, and they can be fixed pretty quickly. Just look at guys like Devontae Adams and Calvin Ridley, who had those flaws early in their careers, and they are now two of the best receivers in football. All in all, he should have been a member of the Browns, and needless to say, I was pretty bummed that it was not meant to be. Still staying at wide receiver, let's observe Florida's Cadarius Toney, who was controversially selected by the Giants with the 20th overall pick. This may be a very unpopular opinion, but I love Toney for reasons outside the normal conventions of what a receiving prospect should be. There's questions about if Toney can play against press and if he can ever be a wide receiver 1, especially in a crowded depth chart in Jersey. But for me, it's his hybrid receiving and rushing skill set that won me over watching his tape. See, at Florida, Toney had near 1,500 career receiving yards and over 500 yards on the ground. He only started in 13 of 38 career games, but what makes him so appealing is how he was consistently used not just as a runner, but as a runner straight out of the backfield in a typical half-back formation. Toney has incredible speed and tackle-breaking ability, which makes him perfect in any Shanahan-type offense. And wouldn't you know it, Kevin Stefanski runs a Shanahan-esque offense himself, and he's been known to use jet sweeps and other trickery to further enhance an already dominant run game. And that is what ticks me off about this selection. Whereas other people call this pick a reach, I call it fitting a round peg into a square hole. Jason Garrett is among the more vanilla coordinators in football. Needless to say, I do not trust him to use Toney correctly as far as I can throw him. An odd moment where you can expect the Browns of all teams to be a better landing spot for a versatile player than the 4-time Super Bowl champion Giants. Going over the safeties, we have Auburn's Javon Holland. Holland was part of a very impressive early showing from the Dolphins, who took the 21-year-old in the second round with the 36th overall pick. It's no secret that Stefanski and Andrew Berry are fans of players with diverse skill sets, or as I like to call it, good football players. And what made Holland unique was that he was consistently used as the team's third corner. Playing in a 3-3-5 base scheme, Holland basically defends the slot, so I suppose you can say he's a hybrid safety and corner. And he's a very good one at that, as I like his quick acceleration and instincts. He can be prone to biting on fakes and double moves, but for the most part, he's been a solid defender that can fill plenty of gaps on the defense. This is one strong addition for the Dolphins secondary, one I had the absolute displeasure of seeing slip away from the clutches of Cleveland. This next one hurt a bit for me. Going into day 3, I was sure that the Browns would find a way to draft USC's Jay Tufili. Then, the Jaguars scoop him up with the day's first selection, and that dream has been stabbed to death. In his Pac-12 career, Tufili had 7.5 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, and he was a member of the first team All-Pac-12 in 2019 before deciding to opt out in 2020. I love Tufili's violent, insane burst off the line of scrimmage, and that's exactly what happens when you have a conventional background like rugby. There are balance issues he'll need to iron out in the NFL, but Tufili was consistently winning reps against both the pass and the run, to the point where he was one of my favorite defensive prospects of this class. The strengths easily outweigh the weaknesses from my perspective. A shame on Berea's end because it looks like a stud in the making with some refinement. Next up is South Carolina's J.C. Horn, and before you say it, yes, I am absolutely 100% aware there was no way in hell he was going to fall to the 26th pick. Let me dream. Horn was my favorite cornerback prospect in this class, and that's no slight at Greg Newsome, as I liked his tape a great deal too. Horn, however, felt so explosive, had a combination of a ball hawk and a lockdown corner that would be an immediate game changer for any secondary. And that's exactly who the Panthers got when they selected him 8th overall. Look, I can accept that he's a grabby corner and prone to penalties because what he offered in college enticed me enough where I didn't really care. Please keep in mind, I loved the Greg Newsome pick, and I think he'll be a very valuable addition to the Browns defense, knock on wood. I was just hoping for an unrealistic shot at J.C. Horn at the same time. It seemed like everyone's top safety in this class was TCU's Trayvon McGhee, and for good reason. Only allowing 2 touchdowns in his last 2 collegiate seasons, McGhee also defended 28 passes and intercepted 7 balls on his way to becoming a 2-time first-team All-Big 12 member. Oklahoma can attest to how good McGhee was in college, as he was everywhere in that particular matchup in 2020. He simply clogged up any chance of open receivers while coming away with 3 passes defended. Out of all the tape I watched on him, this performance stands out proud. I guess McGhee falling to the Raiders in the 2nd round proves how much I can't stand them as a Browns fan. In addition to winning 3 straight games against the Browns, the Raiders have the audacity to take the best safety prospect of the class in a trade-up? That's cold. And I respectfully hate them for that. Browns fans aplenty cowered in fear over the thought of taking Tulsa linebacker Zaven Collins in the 1st round, but not because he sucks, but because the fan base didn't want to draft a linebacker in the 1st round. I couldn't bring myself to find a way to tank Collins' draft stock, but I wanted to so that he'd have the pleasure of falling to Cleveland in the 2nd round. Getting JOK on day 2 was an absolute steal. I think we can all agree on that, but what impressed me about 2020's AAC Defensive Player of the Year was that, well, he was 2020's AAC Defensive Player of the Year. At 259 pounds, Collins isn't just a Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end. He was a tight end in his freshman year in 2017. This is all important because Collins still has plenty of quickness in his toolbox of horrors. He has impossibly good vision and can play pretty much anywhere you want a linebacker to play. Edge? He can do that. The Sam? Can do. Inside is the Mike? There's no job he can't do. Luckily, we'll all be able to see Collins real soon as the Browns take on the Cardinals in 2021. That'll be quite the field trip for all of us. The Ravens sure know how to annoy Cleveland. They can't just die and give the AFC North race to the Browns, can they? Case in point, they selected Minnesota's Rashod Bateman with the 27th overall pick. Turning 22 in late November, Bateman set a school record for receiving yards and touchdowns in 2019. Before opting out of much of 2020 due to breathing problems related to COVID. He started all 31 games he played in college, and I promise you there is a good explanation for that. With a diverse route tree and an ability to play as the X, Z, and slot receiver spots, he's one of the better route runners in this class. That bums me. Now I have to root against one of my favorite receiving prospects of the class. But do you want to know the worst part? I saw this coming. I knew deep down the Ravens would draft Bateman just after the Browns selection, just after it, and there wasn't a damn thing I could do to stop it. This is what I mean. The Ravens are here for nothing else but to anger Browns fans. Finally, let's look at USC defensive tackle Marlon Tuipulotu. No, this is not a typo. Marlon was a teammate of Jay Tufili and stayed at USC in 2020 when Tufili opted out. For his Pac-12 career, Tuipulotu played primarily as the team's nose tackle while putting up 8.5 sacks and 15 tackles for loss. This allowed him in part to be a member of the first team All-Pac-12 in 2020. I guess his injury history made his stock drop. That was before the Eagles drafted him in the 6th round. Now, what I enjoyed about Tuipulotu's tape is that he's good at playing multiple gaps, is very agile and has impressive pass rusher technique for what is widely considered to be a nose tackle. I'm happy with the Browns finding room for Tommy Togiai and Marvin Wilson, but Tuipulotu is a nice depth piece as well. Alright, that is all for me today. I want to thank you guys for tuning into this video. Make sure you continue to keep notifications on for the OBR's YouTube channel, and stay tuned for more videos in the near future. Have a good day, everyone.